Meeting is being called to order. The time is 7:02. Welcome to our regular meeting for the month of August. Public portion of the meeting begins. The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the rights of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the business administrator or its secretary has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building, communicated to the Herald News, the Record, and filed with the clerk of the Borough of Hawthorne. Roll call.
Mr. Carr?
Here.
Mrs. Goff?
Here.
Ms. Arentraut?
Here.
Dr. Morell?
Here.
Mr. Palouse?
Here.
Mr. Raisher?
Here.
Mr. Totaro?
Here.
Mr. Turco?
Here.
And Mr. Clavina.
Here. Please join me for flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As my classes.
Meeting regulations. During each regular meeting, 2 opportunities are provided for citizens to ask questions and to make comments. During the first opportunity, early in the agenda, the meeting is open to the public for the purpose of addressing items listed for approval on this agenda only. The second opportunity occurs just prior to adjournment, when citizens may address any subject matter that is pertinent to and/or directly related to the operation of the school district. Persons wishing to speak must upon being recognized rise, state their name, address, and subject matter. Comments and questions shall be addressed to the board president or the presiding officer and shall be limited to 5 minutes per person. The board may or may not respond to issues raised by members of the public at the time they are raised, but will provide a response if and when appropriate. Persons participating via YouTube may submit questions to our Board of Education email address at hawthorneboe@hawthorne.k12.nj.us, which is available on our district website. When submitting questions via email, please be sure to include your first and last name, address, and your question. We will do our best to answer all questions in the order in which they are received. If for some reason we are unable to answer your question, someone from the district will respond using the email address you provided. The board asks that members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Please note that the board will not respond to comments regarding students or board employees in light of the privacy rights held by those individuals. Moreover, the board discourages comments about such individuals and will not be responsible for such comments. Members of the public who choose to speak during this public session should carefully consider their comments, since they could be personally liable for any statements they make. Finally, please note that in accordance with the district policy, the board will not officially comment or respond to any matter mentioned unless it can confirm that the matter has first been brought to the attention of the appropriate school personnel in an attempt to resolve the issue. Public be heard, agenda items only. Seeing no one, we'll move on to the approval of minutes. Entertain a motion for the approval of minutes for July 20th and July 28th.
So moved.
Second. Second by Mr. Park, moved by Mr. Turco. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Ms. Arentraut?
Yes.
Mrs. Goff?
Yes.
Dr. Morell?
Yes.
Mr. Palouse?
Yes.
Mr. Raisher?
Yes.
Mr. Totaro?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
Yes.
Mr. Clavina.
Yes. No correspondence. Moving on to reports. Mrs. Burrito, can we have your report, please?
Yes, so before I share my superintendent's report, I just wanted to take a moment and introduce Mr. Paul Salisbury. As you know, when we approved our new Lincoln Middle School vice principal, he was unable to be at that meeting, so I asked him just to come tonight to just introduce himself to the board and say a few words.
Sure. Good evening, everybody. My name is Paul Salisbury. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be the next vice principal at Lincoln Middle School. This is my 18th year in education. For the past 17 years, I've been a psychology teacher at Old Bridge High School down in Middlesex County. My class consists of juniors and seniors, accredited through the Fairleigh Dickinson University and a middle college program, which gave them an opportunity to receive 3 college credits at the end of the year. Throughout my time at Old Bridge, I've been the head boys basketball coach, the assistant girls softball coach, head of the athletic leadership committee to get our kids out into the community and give back, student mentor, involved in various committees, And most recently, the Dean of Students for the 10th grade, which houses around 700 students, and an elementary substitute principal, which puts me as the leader of the building. We have about 11 elementary schools within our district. So I'm very excited, to get involved here. I've been coming in last week and obviously this week for the leadership program. Mrs. Dever and Mr. Bertolini have done a great job of just welcoming me, and I'm ready to get my feet wet, get a lay of the land, and I'm very excited to get started. So nice meeting all of you. I'm very happy for the opportunity, and hopefully, I can give our kids an opportunity to, reach their goals and be successful. All right.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. We're excited to have you. So thanks for
Absolutely.
being here. And like Paul said, he's been actively involved in other things going on at Lincoln Middle School, including leadership camp this week. So it's been great. He's got to meet some of the students and some of the staff members and some of the members of our community as well, the police department and the mayor. So it's been great. So, okay, in regards to my report, just a few items I want to update the board on. I know Mr. Totaro is going to talk a little bit about the referendum. I just want to say that the projects are moving along. Everything right now, knock on wood, is on schedule. The one thing I will say is there are some items that are back ordered, mostly furniture, like cabinetry items in some of the locations, like our art rooms. But for the most part, everything is on schedule to be ready to go for September. And again, I'll let Mr. Totaro elaborate on that. I just wanted to mention that we have a schedule to begin rolling out our new Chromebooks to our incoming 6th and 9th graders. That information went out to parents this week. So we're excited about that. The Chromebooks that the current 6th graders, or the incoming 6th graders, didn't have them, obviously. They weren't one-to-one in elementary school, so they're new for those students. The incoming 9th graders had Chromebooks as 8th graders. What we did with those is we took those back. We'll reallocate those down to the elementary schools, and the incoming 9th graders will get new ones to use throughout their high school year. So it's a way of, kind of cycling our Chromebooks. We're not buying all new ones every 5 years. All right, so that's in the works, and thanks to our tech department for organizing that. All of our full sports teams, as well as our marching band and cheerleaders, have begun practicing. We're unfortunately not expecting any new guidance from the NJSIAA as regard to protocols for sports. There's nothing coming out from them currently, but we're going to follow the same procedures that we're following for the schools. If it's indoors, obviously they'll wear masks indoors. If they're participating in a sport, they can choose not to wear it. It's up to them. It's optional. Outdoors, and it will not be required to wear them. So any of our outdoor fall sports, all right? And if any other guidance comes forward from the NJSIAA, we will, we'll let you know. But at this time, we're not expecting that to happen. Leadership camp is back, thank goodness. We're so excited to have leadership camp back this year. And of course, I have to thank Chief Nepper and the Hawthorne Police Department. They do such a phenomenal job with that program, and Al Agnes, the former teacher at Lincoln Middle School, he's very involved, and Mr. Kolk and Mr. Drew are also involved in that program. But Sergeant DeLallo is really the head of the program for the police department, but I can't thank them enough for what they do as part of that program. It's such an integral program to help our students transition into that middle school. It'll make their transition so much easier because they get to really know that building. We do a lot of team building activities. They get to know each other. So it's a great program, and I can't thank them enough for hosting it. We have our new teacher rotation scheduled for August 25th through August 27th, and Dr. Tribona works really hard organizing that program. Look forward to officially welcoming all of our new staff. Also want to just comment on the Let's Talk Mental Health program that's been organized, our parent nights that have been organized by Ms. Wegert, and include our counselors, our social workers from West Bergen Mental Health. I actually attended last night's program, the transition back, coming together after a year apart. Obviously, Ms. Wegert organized it, but Mr. Newman and Ms. Bader presented at that program last night. I thought they did a really nice job and presented a lot of information. The video from that program, the recording, is on our website. It's on our Road Forward webpage. There's a link where you can watch the program, the entire program. It's also on our YouTube page, so There's an opportunity to view that if you missed it, and there's another one coming up tomorrow night, actually. And this will be run by Fidelity Consulting, Steve Fidelity, another great presenter. So we're looking forward to that one tomorrow night. And I just want to thank Ms. Wager for her efforts in putting that together. And I think, anything else? I believe that concludes my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Perito. Moving on with the agenda, Ms. Goff, curriculum and instruction, please.
Sure thing. Pursuant to the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, the Committee on Curriculum and Instruction recommend the following resolutions. CI 1 on page 3, continued on to page 4, CI 2 through CI 8 on page 4, CI 9 through CI 19 on page 5, CI 20 through CI 29 on page 6, carried over onto page 7, CI 30 through CI 40 on page 7, CI 41 through CI 49 on page 8. And on the addendum, CI 108 through CI 110 on page 19. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to discuss item CI 38.
Sure, go ahead, Dr.
I had sent some questions to Mrs. Perito ahead of time seeking clarification regarding the textbook review process. In reviewing the list of books, there were some books I was concerned about the copyright dates. And I was provided information that the district does go through some of the books, and some of the, I guess, textbooks, they're kept as a resource by some of the teachers. I'm still not clear whether or not the students use it, but I was just overall concerned that there are books there that are, in some cases, over 20 years old. And so that was, I privately expressed that, but I wanted to make the board aware about my concerns with the textbook list with some of the books.
Okay, thank you. That's certainly something that we can have a discussion with C&I and address or evaluate. Thank you. Anybody else?
I just have a question on CI 31. And last night too, I attended the Let's Talk Mental Health, and they were excellent. Both of the speakers. So CI 31 is for both of them, right? The people that were the speakers last night.
Yes.
And they're going to be our full-time employees, one in the middle school and one in the high school.
Correct.
So they go September 1st to June 30th. That's our only assignment.
Correct.
No, that's why I was asking the question.
Yes.
I wasn't sure if it was like a couple of days a week or.
No, it's full-time, 5 days a week, one in the high school, one in the middle school, to
Okay.
support our students at the building.
Because I noticed last night too, they give their phone numbers, extensions, all of that.
Yes, they have
So,
offices in each building, and they'll have locations to meet with students, so yes, they're there all year, 5 days a week.
okay, excellent. And I can, they were great last night. They gave a lot of good information. Thank you.
Yeah, we concur. I was on it too. Anybody else?
So if I could just, and just to talk a little bit about what Dr. Morrell shared. So as Dr. Morrell said, she questioned, some of the lists, some of the books on our textbook list. Some of the things I shared with Dr. Morrell in regards to her concerns were that typically what happens is when curriculum is revised, the committee that revises that looks at that curriculum will determine the need for a new textbook. Sometimes they recommend a new textbook, sometimes they do not. And as Dr. Morrell mentioned, and I shared with her, that sometimes even if new books are ordered, old books are maintained because there are sections of that book that may be used as a resource in classrooms with students. The other thing I could share, and I could share, even Dr. Rabona shared, is that some of them are not used as our primary resource in the classroom. We're using other electronic resources, online programs, so there are other things that are being used in lieu of textbooks in some cases. But again, that's as curriculum is revised, that's part of that process, is that look at the textbook that's available or that's currently in place and determine whether it needs to be replaced and eliminated. And again, sometimes even when they get a new book, they'll keep an old book just because there's a section in that book
reference.
For reference, exactly. So anyway, I just wanted to, and that's, I shared a lot with Dr. Morrell in her comments. Just wanted to add that.
Sure. Thank you. We're good? Roll call, please.
Ms. Erentraut?
Yes.
Mrs. Scott?
Yes.
Dr. Morel?
No to CI 38, yes to all other items.
Mr. Palooz?
Yes.
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Mr. Tataro?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
With reservation on CI 16 and CI 28, yes on everything else.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Clovino?
Yes. Ms. Scott, personnel, right back at you, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. The following resolutions are pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, P50 through P57 on page 9, P58 through P65 on page 10, P66 through P74 on page 11, P75 through P92 on page 12, P93 through P100 on page 13, P101 on page 14, and on the addendum, P111 and P112 on page 19, P113 through P115 on page 20, carried over onto 21 and 22 and 23, P116 on page 23, carried over onto page 24, P117 on page 24, carried over onto 25 and 26 and 27 and 28, and P118 on page 28. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Discussion?
I would like to, Mr. President, if I may.
Sure.
Really wish Mr. Brislin a great retirement. I had the pleasure of having him as my school principal in Roosevelt for my children. He was always a very kind and caring principal. And then when he transitioned into a director of technology, I think his leadership was vital as the district began to really move further in incorporating all of the access points and our movement towards the devices. And I think that really came about because of his leadership. So I do wish him well.
Thank you.
I just want to add to that too. I had like the thing on P50 that when Joe got put as a director of technology, it was pretty split whether he was going to be the person or not, because he's not a technology person. I remember specifically they asked him, could you build a computer? And he's like, no, I can't build a computer. He's like, I'm an education person, and then we'll have network people and other people, you know, below him. And he's done an amazing job. And from where we came from 8 years ago, I think when he started the job till now is light years. I mean, we had satellite dishes on top of this building, and 15 minutes, kids were waiting to log in. And the previous people before him were either outsourced, or before that person, I think it was like an aide, like a .5 aide was in charge of all the technology in the district. So what he inherited was not that clean and a bit of a mess to get us like up and running. And now I know that he has tons of alliances with different groups, and he's created different groups, for real time and other things. So congratulate him. I know he's here still for a while, until it looks like the end of October. But congratulate him, and really very hardworking person, and a job well done.
Absolutely. Certainly a class act, and we wish him the best in his future endeavors. Anybody else?
I agree with everything all you said about Mr. Brislin. He's got the big shoes to fill. He's done a heck of a job. It's been a pleasure working with him, and we'll miss him for sure. Glad that we have him for 2 more months so that we can help us transition a little bit, but wish him all the best, of course. And then just to follow up, and I know I emailed the board about this, apologize for the lengthy addendum, but to be honest with you, we just felt it was necessary to really make sure that we had everything covered, especially with this federal money that we're receiving and how it's being allocated. We wanted to make sure that we had everybody, we ensure that we had everyone on that list approved to begin the year, and it will help us with reporting as well in terms of our state reporting and how this money is being used. So again, apologize for the lengthy addendum, but we felt it was important.
Thank you. And I would imagine this is happening statewide, right? Are these funds being allocated on a week part?
And what's happening too is because these are, sometimes in many cases short-term positions, people are accepting and then getting other positions and, saying, I changed my mind, I took another full-time tenure track position. So it's been a lot of moving parts over the last couple of months. because we really started approving some of these people back in May. So there's been a lot of moving parts in this process. So, you know, we just thought it was easier just to have it all in one place, you know, so that we could make sure it's nice and clear. So, thank you.
Makes sense, thank you. Roll call.
Mrs. Goff?
Yes.
Dr. Morrell?
Yes.
Mr. Kalous?
Yes.
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Mr. Totaro?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Ms. Erentraut?
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo?
Yes. Mr. Turco, Finance and Administration, please.
Thank you, sir. Pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools Committee on Finance, Administration recommends the following resolutions: F-102 through F-104 on page 14 and F-119 on page 28 of the addendum. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Second by Mr. Malus. Discussion? Roll call.
Dr. Morrell?
Yes.
Mr. Kalous?
Yes.
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Mr. Totaro?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Ms. Erentraut?
Yes.
Mrs. Goff?
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo?
Yes. Mr. Reicher, claims, please.
Thank you very much. In accordance with NJAC 6A:23-2:11B, C3, and C4, I'm approving the bill list in August 2021. It's recommended that the board approve all the bills. I took a look at all of them, and I appreciate that it's all electronic instead of being in the pub. I don't know if I ever go back to the pub, but it's much easier to look through them electronically. And on behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Second by Dr. Morrell. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Kalous?
Yes.
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Mr. Totaro?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
With reservation on any bill relating to PCTI or Northern Regional Educational Services Commission.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Ms. Erentraut?
Yes.
Mrs. Goff?
Yes.
Dr. Morrell?
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo?
Yes. Mr. Totaro, Buildings and Grounds, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Committee on Buildings and Grounds recommends the following resolutions. BG 106 on page 15, continued on page 16. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second.
Second by Dr. Morrell. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Mr. Totaro?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
Yes, with reservation.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Ms. Erentraut?
Yes.
Mrs. Goff?
Yes.
Dr. Morrell?
Yes.
Mr. Kalous?
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo?
Yes. Mr. Totaro, policy, please.
Thank you again. Pursuant to the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Committee on Policy recommends the following resolution. PO 107 on page 16. On behalf of the committee, I so move.
Second?
Second by Ms. Erentraut. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Totaro?
Yes.
Mr. Turco?
Yes.
Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Ms. Erentraut?
Yes.
Mrs. Goff?
Yes.
Dr. Morrell?
Yes.
Mr. Kalous?
Yes.
Mr. Reicher?
Yes.
Mr. Clavijo?
Yes. So moving on to our committee liaison reports, Mr. Carr, legislative, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. As of right now, there's nothing to report on the legislative front for this meeting.
Thank you. Passaic County School Boards Association, I haven't seen anything new in regards to meetings. As soon as I see something, I'll relay it to the group. Ms. Goff, JSBA, curriculum instruction, please.
CNI did not meet this month, but for NJSBA, they have posted the virtual workshop, brief article this year. It will be October 26th through October 28th. So we look forward to the lineup of who's presenting there. I'm never able to go because I don't have those days off as a teacher, so it's exciting that it's virtual. Maybe I can squeeze something in, so I'll update you guys as I know more.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Palouse, have CPAC and PTOs.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a quick report. For the most part, everybody's just starting to get ready, for the new school year. I noticed on the Facebook pages, everybody's posting their school supply lists and scrambling to try to figure out what to do. I did notice also, there's some interesting ways of raising, funds for your schools. And I mentioned it before, but again, Lincoln Middle School, if you shop at Amazon, just go to Amazon, Smile Amazon, and go to the drop-down screen for all charities. And you can click on Lincoln Middle School Inc. And anytime you make certain purchases, a small amount gets transferred over there and it doesn't cost you anything. And also at Lincoln School, Lincoln Middle School, I noticed that somebody posted using an app for box tops. And when they scanned their receipts on one day at Costco, $2.30 was headed over to, Lincoln School. So again, it's not a lot of money, but if a lot of people do a little bit, it could add up to a lot of money. So just kind of keep those things in mind. On the high school webpage, I noticed that Project Graduation also posted for sale Hawthorne signs. So they had things like, all your sports, and alumni as well. So you can buy a sign for your house and proceeds will go towards Project Graduation. The Ed Foundation is working on a few things, but at this time we'll have some more to report in the near future. And just rounding up with CPAC, we're again doing the pull tabs, and one parent dropped off 25 pounds yesterday, and that brings the total for the high school up to 86 pounds already. So, again, continue to save your pull tabs. It's for a good cause, and we can raise money. CPAC is also planning on a color run, hopefully with the World's Health situation. We don't know if that's going to happen or not, but again, we are planning it. CPAC's also planning a workshop in September for educational rights, and we will also be inviting the the BOE candidates for a board event night in October, and that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Patera, Buildings and Grounds, Council Liaison and Policy, please.
Sure, thank you, Mr. President. Nothing for council policy this month. However, Buildings and Grounds, excuse me, we did not meet. However, there are a few items I want to note and share upon a little bit more from what Mrs. Spirito previously said. There have been improvements continuing throughout the summer from the referendum projects. A couple highlights to note for each of the buildings pertaining to the Media Center and the Arts renovations project. Jefferson Elementary, all lighting is completed as well as the final wiring. The curbing and rooftop units are scheduled to be installed over the next 2 weeks, as well as the glass storefront. Washington Elementary, over the course of the next couple of weeks, we anticipate the epoxy floors to be completed, as well as the LVT and carpet flooring in the Media Center. We also anticipate the unit ventilators being installed as well as the lighting the week of the 23rd. And lastly, at Roosevelt Elementary, we anticipate all the flooring to be wrapped up by the end of August, as well as having the above ceiling inspection. And as Mr. Spirito said, we're waiting for some casework and millwork, which will, obviously we're focusing in on getting done before the school year, keep everybody apprised. That concludes my report.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Turco, Finance and Administration, please.
Thank you, sir. Finance Committee did not meet either this month. However, Cheryl and I have spoken on the phone and or emailed over the past few weeks. Just two items of note. Out-of-district tuition has gone over budget a bit already this year. However, I think between some transfers and some extraordinary aid that we've received, we'll be okay with those accounts. And also, I believe in this year's budget was 146 students attending PCTI, and that is up to 157. So that will eventually cost us, in a ballpark, I guess, an estimated 150,000 or so with transportation. And otherwise, that's all I have. Cheryl, am I good with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Moving on to public be heard. As a reminder, when submitting questions or comments via email, please be sure to include your first and last name, address, and your question. Public be heard.
Yes, I do.
Just want to remind you, name and address, please.
Paul Kozlowski, 97 Sunrise Drive. Hi, everybody. I've watched a few meetings online. Pretty boring. But coming here today, I'm trying, I wanted to experience it live. Is the agenda posted?
Yes, sir.
Where?
It's on our website. There's two places actually. On the homepage of our district website, there's on the bottom of the page, there's a tab about the Board of Education meetings, which includes the link to the stream.
Yeah, well, I just, the stream or the agenda?
The agenda's there as well.
Because I tried to find the agenda, I couldn't find it.
Yeah, it's
Or
there.
past agendas.
No, they're all there. There's a whole separate page.
Maybe
I
it's
can-
my phone.
It looks
Look
different on
under
the
Board of
phone.
Education.
It looks different on the phone than it does on an actual computer. The app version of our website, it sort of cuts that off. If you hold it wideways, it'll appear there.
Okay.
If you want to give me a call in the office tomorrow, I can walk you through exactly.
No,
what it is.
I just wanted to follow along on my phone, you know,
Yeah.
I know there's no handouts or anything.
No, the handouts are there as well,
Right there in
sir.
the corner.
They're right there.
They're right there in the back.
Corner.
When
White
you walk
and
in
the
the
yellow
door.
sheets.
Yellow, that's it?
That's the agenda and the
Because I hear you all
agenda.
talking about these things and I wanted to follow.
You gotta
Same
remember
with
that.
It's right in the back.
That's great, super. That was my question.
Yeah.
Okay.
The computer version, the full version is more easy to navigate
Okay.
and find that.
I was looking over there, it was very big.
Hello, my name is Noreen. I have 25 Richard Ave, Hawthorne. Thank you that you let us come tonight and be able to speak. We are just concerned as parents, grandparents, that what's being taught in the schools, not and necessarily also in Hawthorne, but also around the globe it's happening. So we are here to ask about the CRT theory, if that's going to be the CRT, if that's going to be taught, and about the sexual education, what is happening about the gender issues. Is any of that being taught? And the books that the children will be reading, sex ed that is out there. I don't know if any of you are aware of what is coming to the schools and the pictures that are being shown and what is being taught to these young children who are in kindergarten all the way up. So I don't know if any of you have any answers for that or what's being taught or what's coming.
Sure, I'll answer. As board president, because it is a public institution, you gotta keep in mind that, a bulk of what we have to disseminate is being decided at a level above us. So it's coming through the State Department of Education. A lot of these things are mandated through them. Most of them are actually mandated through them.
I understand that, but there's also that the school and the parents do have a decision to make that you do not have to have your child be taught some of these things that are coming. And I'm wondering what you would do about that as far as the children that are being taught. If the parents don't want that, what is going to be the solution for that?
Sure. Mr. Spear, is there anything you'd like to comment?
The only thing I'll say is this, that as Mr. Clavio mentioned, there are state standards that are created and shared with school districts, not just Hawthorne, as you mentioned, it happens throughout the state. And it's our job to follow those standards, to implement those standards in a way that we feel meets the needs of our students. And I mean, I think we could sit here and disagree on outside, I know you mentioned critical race theory and you mentioned LGBTQ curriculum. I mean, we could argue about other things as well, I'm sure, history classes, what's being taught, or, right, so we could disagree, I mean, argue, but we could disagree on some other things as well, but at the end of the day, it is our responsibility as a school district to implement the standards that are given to us, and we do that in the way that we feel is appropriate, depending on the age of the student and level, elementary, middle school, high school.
Okay, so what about the sex ed that's being taught and the books? Are you aware of the books that are out there, the names of them, and what they're being taught in the pictures, and what is being shown? I don't know if any of you are aware of that, or not.
Well, the majority of the board members have kids in the school system, so, we are, from that perspective, we are also parents, the majority of us are. And, those that no longer have students at this point, they have had kids in the school district, but the majority of us do have students in the school district, so, we are aware from that perspective as well.
But you are aware of the books that are coming from the state of California. You are aware of those books that are coming.
Do you have a specific
Yeah,
example? I'm not aware of what you're
Suzanne,
talking
do you have the
about.
names with you?
I do not have the, should I stand up?
Yeah.
I do not have the names of the books, but well, I should probably come up and
Yeah,
Yeah, I was
introduce
gonna say,
myself.
we
Yeah.
should transition from one person to another.
Yes, thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just your name and address, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Suzanne Kozlowski, 97 Sunrise Drive in Hawthorne. So I, along with Noreen and a few other people, had sent you on the board this letter back in May of 2020. And it was about the curriculum, Garden State Equality. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. So we had asked you to come to a Zoom meeting with Sean Hyland from the policy, from the Family Policy Alliance, and he pretty much explains what the curriculum is, what's out there, the different books, what they're, basically it's exploiting young children. So we had sent you the letter, we had sent you the information, and so that was it. We really didn't hear anything back. We didn't know what was going on, so we wanted to come to the meeting just to hear what you had to say.
Sure, and we certainly appreciate that follow-up, but you referenced that it was an email was sent in May 2020?
Yeah, what happened was then COVID kind of hit,
Okay.
and so everything,
Sure.
that kind of took preference, and this kind of went to the wayside, and we didn't really weren't able to get back to you to follow up. A lot of the in-person meetings were being canceled, and there was a few Zoom meetings that were going on that the New Jersey Policy Alliance was holding, and we really were trying to encourage our community to, the Board of Ed to go, so that it could be explained properly, and you could understand the information that they have and where it's going, and what those books are, and the explicitity of it all.
So you don't know the name of the books?
I
You don't know the
did not
conference
bring
using?
that information with me today. I actually have that information with me. I have tons of information at home that I've kept because I'm in touch with Sean Hyland all the time. So I do have that information. I just didn't bring it with me. I wasn't sure how the meeting was going to go tonight, so I didn't bring it. But I can get that information for you. Absolutely.
And Hawthorne is using them, you're saying?
No, we don't, that's why we were here. We were asking if our district was going to be implementing these things that are already in place in other school districts in New Jersey.
Okay. If you could, do you want an email to you? Sure. You could email the book titles to Mr. Spirito, and then he can let us know.
Okay, sure. Okay, thank you very much.
Can I comment?
Excuse me, Mr. President, may I comment as well?
Go ahead, Ms.
No,
Dr. Mark.
Mr. Morel, go first.
So I just wanted to clarify some information. So there are two legislative bills that Mr. Spirito, Mr. Clavijo referred to. One of them is Legislative Bill A 4454. That is the most recent bill regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion. That was recently passed this year. Last year, that is to be implemented for the 21-22 school year. The previous bill, which is the Persons with Disability and LGBTQ people, a legislative bill that was passed last year to be implemented last year. In both bills, in all cases throughout New Jersey, the Board of Education, local district boards of education are the ones who identify what resources and textbooks are adapted in the district. So raising these questions and concerns is definitely the appropriate avenue, and that, of course, Mrs. Spirito can meet with his curriculum and instruction team to see what resources they have purchased regarding to meet both of these legislative mandates, because it is a local district decision. Regarding the resource you mentioned about Garden State Equality, that is what it is. It is a resource. It's a curriculum resource. You are correct. There are some districts that have both piloted those resources and some of them have adopted it. As far as I know, and I won't speak for the district, they'll have to look at it, we have not adopted that curriculum. So again, there's a whole process to where we adopt materials.
Right.
So it would be no different than there's different textbook series. We look at them, we review them, there's a whole process for that. That's also, that whole textbook review process is followed by our board policy. So we also look at that information as well. Regarding your question about your concern about any parental concern regarding whatever instructional materials are taught. In the state of New Jersey, administrative code allows parents to opt out of family health and sexual education. That's in board policy. In fact, typically in 5th grade, and if you have 5th graders before, you might have been told to come watch the movie. And if a parent does choose that this is not something that they wish their child to engage in, an alternative assignment is done for the student. That is always the case. I think the question becomes, which is what Mrs. Ferrito and Mr. Covillo referred to, that those two other legislative mandates are a component of the standards and they're to be integrated age appropriately. So when we talk about the persons with disability LGBTQ mandate, that is specifically for grades 6 through 12. And then the diversity and inclusion mandate is for grades K through 12. And again, these are legislative bills, and I would suggest maybe that's something to the administration to engage with these families or any other parents to make them aware of what the legislative bills are. Because it's really, the first one, the persons with disability and LGBTQ, is really about, not necessarily about sex, it's about the contributions of individuals from those communities. And that, again, is from 6 to 12. The diversity and inclusion is just, if you look at it, there's certain components about it, but again, it's unrelated to sexual education. And I think sometimes those two items get conflated. And there are revised health and PE standards, which is where I think the concerns come from, especially at the kindergarten level with some of the standards that some parents have raised concerns. And that actually, again, because it is a part of family health, that's where you have the opportunity, and as per our board policy, to review the material and choose to opt out. So I just wanted to clarify some of that information. I hope that's helpful.
It was very helpful, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Are we allowed to bring you the information for the next meeting if we have information for you?
No, I'm going to email her.
Yeah, you could just email Mr.
Sure.
Rito, and he'll share it with
Sure.
us.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Excuse me, I just want to
Mr.
comment
Ferrito,
that.
go ahead.
Oh, sure.
Ms. Morel mentioned mandates, and I am also to a degree not thrilled with some of the indoctrinations that are occurring in our schools. Unfortunately, we don't pass legislation here. The route of where you need to go is to your local assemblymen, congressmen, and senators to put a halt, or at least a limit, because as she stated, we are given choices. Let's just say 5 books for kids in high school to learn from. The superintendent, his staff, they'll choose which book to utilize, but all part of your concerns. So it's not, our hands are tied because we are mandated to do these things, unfortunately. You've got to go to your legislators and say, that's where you've got to go.
Yes, and that's what we have been doing, and we realize that your hands are tied to a certain degree. That's why we were asking originally in the letter to, there are certain things that you can and cannot, like you were saying, you can choose. You have choices.
You can choose what's
Basically,
given
that's
to
what we
us.
were, right, we were asking to choose the lesser of the two evils, I
Yes,
guess, what
right,
you
exactly.
want to put it that way. And for the you really cleared up a lot as well, as far as the opting out and all of that, and everything that you said was, that was, exactly what we came to hear and wanted to know, so I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, just before closing out the public hearing section, just want to thank you guys for coming out. We appreciate, as we're cognizant as a board that these are sensitive issues. We're fully cognizant of that, and any proactive communication and engagement from parents in the community is certainly welcome. So thank you for representing yourself in that manner. That email that went out last year, not everybody on this dais was part of that board at that point, so you may want to re-forward it at that point. And we'll take a look at it as well at that point.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we'll close out the public heard portion of the agenda, and we'll be moving on to new business or old business. We'll start out by Dr. Morel. Any new business or old business that you'd like to bring up?
Nope, I enjoyed the Let's Talk, I forgot the title of it, Let's Talk Mental Health. I did enjoy the program last night. I found it very informative. and helpful to me as a parent to be proactive and mindful of any possible behaviors I may, see in my children and possible suggestions. And I really am so appreciative of Ms. Wager and all the work and the proactive work of the administration in bringing these programs, bringing full-time mental health staff for that aspect. So I just, again, kudos to the program, and I'm excited to attend more of the parent workshops. Thank you.
Very good. And we will have an opportunity at the end for general comments. But yeah.
Oh, sorry, I messed that up.
No, it's okay, thank you, because it's, it could fall into one of those categories. Mr. Clark.
Good, thank you, Mr. President.
Very good. Mr. Sarah, any more?
Thank you, Mr.
Mr. Rancher? I'm good. Stop any more?
I would like to echo Mr. Sprito's sentiments about leadership camp and everyone who has said things. My daughter is an active participant this week, and it is really an amazing experience for everyone. The adults, I served breakfast, and it's just been great. Huge thank you to the collaboration the police department has with us. That is unique to Hawthorne, and honestly, I met Mr. Salisbury there, and even he was, it's just so awesome. Secondly, I would like to just bring to the attention of the board, I've been communicating with Mr. Street about this. There is some email issue going on. I'm also not getting emails. I know several members of the community are not getting emails. It's very strange which ones I get, which ones I don't. Get that alert on the phone. I'll go check your email, and then I won't have it. So Mr. Sprito has contacted Mr. Brisland. They're working on it. So I just want to let everybody know we are working on that issue. Hopefully,
You're referring to parent portal, those parent portal emails?
The ones coming through real time?
Yes.
There's been notifications that either I send out or the schools. It seems to be more of a high school issue, but what's happening is some people are getting the text and not the email. Some people are getting the text and email for one notification and not for another. So there's something going on. I believe it's an issue with real time. So Mr. Brisland and I spoke this afternoon. We're going to contact him tomorrow, try to figure out what's going on, just to get it cleared up. Because this time of year, a lot of notifications are going out.
And it causes a bit of anxiety when you get it saying, super important letter from the high school coming your way, and then you go and there's no super important letter in your email box. But anyway, I wanted to let everybody know that we are on it. Mr. Sprito's on it.
We're working on it.
Interesting. For my high schooler, I've never, they're been consistent, so I haven't missed any.
But yeah, and it's inconsistent.
And if you go to Facebook, you'll read threads. Every time one comes out, there's a thread of people who said, I didn't get this one. And then people say, I did. Yeah, so it's very strange.
Okay.
Not sure what's going on. It could be a glitch in the real-time system that we're going to try to get to the bottom of.
They're on it. But that's it.
Good to hear. Thank you. Mr. Turtle.
I'm good, sir.
Sorry, Charles. Mr. Blue.
Oh, good, but I do want to just kind of piggyback on what Abby said. When you live through the leadership camp, it takes it to a different level. You can hear about it, you can understand it, but when your kids go through it, it really is a great program.
Yeah.
When you have all three schools kind of merging together and team building, and that first day of school is completely relaxed compared to what it would be if we didn't have leadership camp. So, thank you for that.
Absolutely. And I know, any general comments, anything else?
Thank you.
Sorry, Chuck, general comments?
I agree with Dr. Morrell. I thought the program last night was really informative and great, and excited to see that we do stuff like this in Hawthorne. Way different from when I was a student 20 years ago. Thought it was great.
Mr. Turco, any comments?
I'm good, thank you.
Scott?
I did post the link. Someone had asked for the presentation link from last night. They were not able to attend, so I did post directly under that person's comment. And it is on our website page on
The Road Forward page there, I already put the link to the video, the presentation from last night. It's already up.
And will tomorrow night also be the same thing?
I'm going to put all of them.
Okay, so
they'll
we
be
can direct
available
the
to
public
parents.
to that
Yep,
page to
that
find
Road
all the
Forward page.
presentations.
Yep, everything was already up from last night.
Good. Right, any comments?
Yeah, I was just going to add, a lot of people talked about last night's presentation, but I think in schools in the whole country, there's a thing called Maslow before Bloom, which is basically, here's the exact definition, typically used to communicate how humans get their basic needs before academic learning can be fully embraced. And if there was ever a year for it, this is the year, because a lot of students, not all, but haven't even been in school. They've been home for a whole year. Even though most of the students came back, not all of them came back. So I'm appreciative that we've done all these things, and they said at one of the board meetings that nobody was at when they presented everything that they were gonna do for the social emotional learning, the team of the Director of Curriculum and Mrs. Weggert and the Director of Special Services, they're taking a proactive approach. They don't wanna wait until they have to run to the emergency room that it's too late. So I'm appreciative that we're doing it. And my only comment is maybe the two people from last night, even tonight I was asking, like I was unsure myself, if they're gonna be full-time employees, that people know like who they are. I know the school year hasn't started yet, but they impressed last night even. If you have any question, like at any time, if your child is worried about like going into the school, you know, you can call us and we can help you. And they gave their email and phone number, and it was on one of the slides. But you know, school phobia is a real thing, and now it's just going to be magnified because some kids just have not been around other kids and in school. So I just wanted to make those points because one of the meetings that they did that presentation, there weren't a lot of people at, and it's good to see the wheels in motion for it. Thank you.
Echoing the sentiments of the other board members, last night was great. It was very informative. I think if anything, right now is the time we need to have as much information as possible for our children, students, and parents, right, and how to get through these times. So it was very informative, and also formally congratulate Mr. Salisbury in person. So welcome aboard, and we know that you bring value to the district. So thank you. And lastly, Mr. Brislin, congratulations on his retirement, even though it's a couple months away. Just to formally note that and the value that he brought to the district, and just a little bit of time that I've worked with him and just engaging in conversation, he's just been tremendous, and I know he'll be sorely missed. So big shoes to fill for sure. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Clark?
I'm good, thank you.
Dr. Morale, anything additional?
No, I messed it up before.
Just a couple of things. We may possibly be having a facilities tour. Coordinate them.
Yes, we'd like to coordinate a facility walkthrough, just so you can say that we haven't been in the schools very much. So we wanted to coordinate a facilities walkthrough to see all the updated rooms in all the schools. So we can coordinate something. I'm thinking probably maybe the week before school opens. I'll send out an email. We'll try to coordinate a date. Mr. Chamberlain's on vacation, so hopefully they comes back to.
Great. And if there's an opportunity to see the referendum upgrades, I had a chance to see the Lipton Middle School gymnasium. It's fantastic. That's up and coming, so look out for that email. Also, I want to take the opportunity to thank everybody for the work that they do over the summer. Board members, there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes. You know, people are coming in from, logging in from vacations and taking time away from family and business to take care of board business. Thank you for that. You know, nobody can really appreciate how much goes on behind the scenes, so you've been on that side of it. Same with the administration. I mean, any given year, there's so much that happens behind the scenes, but this year more so than a regular year. There is a lot of hesitancy and with the coming year, but those of us that get to see behind the scenes can certainly just communicate to you that the administration on board, they're all over it. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of things that are that we're not sure how are going to pan out, but they're absolutely on top of it. If there's anything that I think the pandemic has taught us is that we have to be flexible. There's rigidity is only going to bring pain, and we have to be nimble. And we can choose to focus on that it's not an ideal year, but we could also focus on the positives. Looking back at a year ago, there was tools in our arsenal that we currently have that we didn't have at that point. There was no vaccine. We had no experience with remote learning. Mitigating a pandemic, just like the air filters that are in place. None of that was in place last year. Again, not an ideal year, but we have a lot more tools at our disposal at this point. Something else that it's unique about us is that, as the public can probably see, we for the most part are of one mind. You see on social media and you see on the news how there's mayhem going on in different districts, and I think it's a testament to the kind of community that Hawthorne is, leadership camp, and everybody that's part of the board and in our district that, we had a different ideal, we have a different standard by which we live. So I just wanted to put that out there. We are gonna have a private session, an executive session. Gonna ask the non-conflicted local board members to stick around for that. Private session, be resolved that the Hawthorne Board of Education convenes an executive session to discuss exempt matters pertaining to personnel. Entertain a motion to go into private session.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Turco.
Yes.
Mr. Parr.
Yes.
Ms. Erentrop.
Yes.
Ms. Scott.
Yes.
Dr. Morel.
Yes.
Mr. Kalous.
Yes.
Mr. Raishner.
Yes.
Mr. Notaro.
Yes.
Mr. Flagerty.
Yes. Thank you for coming out. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Two motions, motion to exit private.
Motion.
Second.
Ms. Toulouse and Ms. Earnshaw. And discussion roll call.
Ms. Earnshaw?
Yes.
Ms. Goff?
Yes.
Dr. Morrell?
Yes.
Mr. Kalouce?
Yes.
Mr. Rasher?
Yes. Your mic is
Mr.
still
Clavino?
on.
Yes.
No, you're good.
And motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion roll call.
Ms. Earnshaw?
Yes.
Ms. Goff?
Yes.
Dr. Morrell?
Yes.
Mr. Kalouce?
Yes.
Mr. Rasher?
Yes.
And Mr. Clavino?
Yes. Thank you guys. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody.
I know.